Dennis, can I start with you? What do you make of this as a sort of last-minute dash to get the Tories over the line, the idea of national service for 18-year-olds?
Oh, gosh, after his poor start, going up to the Titanic and saying that the Welsh should all be watching the Euros when they've been eliminated, and then all the top Tories, all of them, just leaving the sinking ship. This is absolutely just a bit potty. There's a perfectly good case for national service. One or two Baltic states are bringing it back to defend themselves against the Russians, but you can't send conscript soldiers into battle. We've reduced our army to 75,000, the lowest number since Napoleonic times. They live in dreadful housing conditions. I don't know who's going to pay for it, who's going to administer it. Have the generals? Generals never want to take on this kind of sort of social work conscription. So, I can't say it's a bad idea, but I just think Rishi has probably lost every single young vote overnight.
Piers Pottinger, where's this idea come from?
Well, I think it comes from his school, because he was at Winchester College, where I was. And in those days, we had CCF, which was you could choose either to be in the Corps, which is the cadet force for the army, or do voluntary work once a week. And this is a very similar scheme. But I think the point everyone seems to have missed here is that the people who really like these schemes are employers. Because when national service was originally in place and when it was stopped in the 60s, it was followed by a very popular short service commission in the army, which many people who didn't go to university chose to take up, and was actually a very popular qualification with employers. Because doing national service or even voluntary service, and Rishi has said it would be with something like the police or the
RNLI,
service or the RNLI. It gives them skills, it teaches teamwork, it gives a sense of purpose and unity, all of which is extremely good, particularly for people who may not be able to go to university in the future, and it will give them a base, admittedly a small base, as it's only a year. Initially, national service was longer than that. And for example, in Singapore, where they still have national service like this, it has proved very popular with employers, not just in Singapore, but even in this country.
But it's interesting, isn't it, that he's alienated the young vote?
Well, I don't think he's alienated the young vote.
Of course he has, because it may be that a lot of people think, oh, this would actually be a good idea. It tends not to be the young people who would have to do it who think
But it also tends not to be the young people who actually vote. And I think this is a very cleverly worked out announcement, because I think Rishi knows that he's lost most of the young votes anyway. And as I think one of your earlier commentators was mentioning, this whole campaign has the smell of damage limitation now, rather than actually looking for victory. Because I think that Rishi knows the game is lost.
Go on, Dennis, you were shaking your head.
Well, I also was in the cadet force, like Piers. I was a company sergeant major. I had a very loud voice and I loved ordering people about. Then I went into politics. So there. No, actually, it will be a disaster for employers because there's such a permanent skill shortage. Last year, Rishi imported 654,000 immigrants from Nigeria, India and Pakistan to fill all the vacancies left after Brexit. And the idea of taking all the 18-year-olds off the labour market to march them around squares with sort of, I don't know, will they bring back Dad's army sergeants to shout at them and drill them? No, I mean, it's such a daft idea. I can't believe a professional officer or the army or the MOD have got nightmares now trying to restore morale and status to the army, want to have anything to do with this. It's somebody, I mean, I just don't know who's in Downing Street advising him on all of these things. They just seem to be completely politically barely bonkers.
Piers?
Well, I do think that this campaign increasingly looks like a solo effort by Rishi. When Dennis said that someone was advising them, I wonder who is advising him, because admittedly it was a huge surprise, this announcement, but it also looks like Rishi suddenly woken up to, I better do something to show I'm not a woke almost left-wing person and try and attract the voters who are all going to desert the Conservatives and go to Reform.
Hold on, Piers. A solo campaign?
Well, I mean, he appears, everywhere he's appeared, there's no one apparently with him. I mean, Starmer has Angela Rayner or Rachel Reeves or some people around him. But, I mean, yesterday, Rishi was in his constituency in Richmond in a Wetherspoons, sitting on his own with a bunch of old men having a coffee. And that's not actually particularly impressive as an image to send out to the electorate. I mean, he does seem like he's a solo operator. The way he launched the campaign, I cannot believe anyone in Downing Street didn't say to him, have an umbrella, for goodness sake, let's wait till the rain goes out. We've spent a lot of money building a studio nearby. Why don't we do it inside? But instead he said, no, I'm going to do it. And he went out and did it. And the imagery was very, very embarrassing. And as Dennis said, going to visit the Titanic, I mean, what on earth possessed him to go and see the Titanic? I mean, extraordinary.
On the other hand, Dennis Michaud, you might find this interesting. It's a story we're going to talk about a bit later on. Apparently, Keir Starmer has been advised not, as the Euros draw near, not to wear an England shirt because it will put off Scottish voters, which, of course, are terribly important at the moment. So, you know, we're all... I mean, I guess that election campaigns are always like this, aren't they?
They are a bit, for sure. I mean, I wouldn't advise any man in his 60s running for the highest office of the land to pretend he's a sportsman or wear any kind of sporting shirt. But Keir is an Englishman, and we'll see how far England, or indeed anybody else, goes. And if they go far, well, that's okay. It's quite normal to go along to semi-finals and finals. And we'll wait and see. No, I think so far... Oh, I don't know. I mean, I feel sorry for Rishi. You just feel the man is desperate to go home. His real home is in Silicon Valley in California. And he's just going to Wetherspoons to have a cup of coffee. Oh, it's okay. Wetherspoons sells everything. You go to Wetherspoons for a pint, but he doesn't drink.
He doesn't drink.
Dennis, you get free top-ups on your coffee in Wetherspoons. So don't knock it. Don't knock it. You get a lot of coffee.
But at least Rishi's policies are his own, whereas Keir Starmer is conning the electorate into walking into a sleeping nightmare. Into a nightmare, because all the Labour Party policies are decided by the NEC, which comprises 13 trade unionists and a bunch of left-wing socialists. So they're not really Starmer's policies, and we still don't know what they really are yet.
Piers, if you seriously think the Labour Party now is a left-wing party, join it for 5 minutes and see what old-fashioned Labour Party people think. This is the most conservative social democratic party in Europe. Its policies are pro-business, pro-growth, all the things that once were at the heart of Torydom. Now Torydom is all about enlisting 18-year-olds to go square bashing.
OK, got to leave it there. Piers, Dennis, thank you very much indeed.